What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you're excited because it is time for a Blogging the Boys Roundtable. We do these every Tuesday afternoon/evening at 5 p.m. Central Time because there's always things to talk about when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys. You can watch along live on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel, or you can listen after the fact and also watch after the fact. But listen on the Blogging the Boys Podcast Network. Subscribe, leave a rating, write a review wherever you get your podcasts. I am joined tonight by three fantastic members of the Blogging the Boys Podcast Network. In fact, I'm kind of crashing the First and 10 party. You can hear all three of them together every Monday on the First and 10 podcast on the Blogging the Boys Podcast Network. Aidan Davis here is taking a break from studying. I don't know if you have detention tonight, Aidan. You got to go write lines or something like that. I don't know how they do it there in Austin, but hey, it is what it is. Troy Aikman's going to be in Austin, I think, on Wednesday, promoting that new beer. So maybe
that
you can
bar, yeah.
Yeah, find a way to get out there. Tony Catalina, who is actually, prioritizing work over familial affairs. We'll get into that in just a minute. Thank you for joining us. And, of course, Dave Sturchio, the most crotchety member of the Blogging the Boys Podcast Network. Sturch, what did you eat for lunch today?
You know what? I had one of those big pretzels from a bar. I'm talking about the Bavarian, the big guys that you put in the beer cheese.
Like the ones in The Office?
I mean, I don't know. I don't know that reference. I do watch The Office, but I don't remember that. I don't remember that.
You don't know
episode.
the pretzel episode? It's a big deal. So.
Oh, well, in any event, it was a big ass pretzel.
All right, Tony, again, you've got a lot going on tonight personally. You want to let everybody know what we're holding our breath for? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, so tonight, USFL football. My brother's in the draft pool, so we'll see where he ends up. I mean, I don't really have a rooting interest, but I think after the podcast we're done here live with you guys, I'm going to see where he goes, and I'm going to have to go and buy some swag, some merchandise. So you might see me rocking a New Jersey Generals hat next week.
There we go.
You know what, Tony? I pledge to you I will buy a T-shirt or a cap of whatever team drafts him. All right?
See, that's a real friend. Right? That's a real friend right there.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say the same for Sturch and Aidan, but it is what it is. Aidan, did you take a bread from Red Dead Redemption 2 to join us tonight?
I have not played it in a while because I've had a lot of tests lately. But now the tests are over, so I'll probably get back on the grind. One thing about buying shirts for the USFL. Last time the XFL, I guess, in 2020 or whatever, I literally ordered my Dallas shirt, and by the time the shirt got to my apartment, the league had closed down to COVID, and so I threw it away because I was like, "There's no point."
Yeah,
threw it away.
I had New Jersey. I had New Jersey Guardians season tickets. Like that.
Wow, weren't they the DC Guardians? I think that's what they were.
New Jersey. It was the Jersey or New York Guardians.
Was it the DC Defenders or something though?
That's what it was.
No, they're now the DC.
But y'all are thinking. Everybody know? No. It's the San Antonio Commanders, or the original Commanders from the Alliance of American Football. Every year there's a new spring league to talk about. King Dallas 24 Cowboys says New Jersey has a team. About time. Aidan, I mean, there's really nothing to get all of puffed up about New Jersey, right? I mean, it's fine. Like, Ted Mosby hated it in How I Met Your Mother. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because you don't have a deep attachment to it like these guys.
Yeah, but I'll say that I watched Sopranos for the first time like 4 months ago, and it made me fall in love with New Jersey just because Tony Soprano is such a cool character that I'm like, yes, New York. Who cares about New York? Let's go, Tony.
Interesting, because I am currently watching Succession for the first time, and next on my list is The Sopranos. I've never seen it, so we'll see how that goes. I feel like I really upset Tony and Sturch. This is an upsetting episode, potentially. What we're going to talk about tonight, very vague, very ambiguous. What are the priorities for the Dallas Cowboys this offseason? We're going to go around the horn, and this isn't First and 10 where you guys think it's cool to copy each other and you have no problems doing that. No, here, when somebody says something, it's off the board. Creativity is not only encouraged, it's demanded on the Blogging the Boys Roundtable, Sturch. So in the spirit of that, since you seem to have the biggest problem with it, Sturch, you will go last. Aidan, what is your number one priority for the Dallas Cowboys? They can be as vague, as ambiguous, as specific as you want, but this offseason, something that has to be a priority within the Star in Frisco.
I'm going to take priority like what they need to do first and I'm gonna say restructure contracts because we had Kyle on the First and 10 podcast, and that was amazing. But what he said is that right now he feels like it's a 50% chance that Amari Cooper leaves, which is ridiculous. I was playing around with the cap today, like some cap numbers, and granted, I'm not Steven or Jerry Jones, but the Cowboys
That
can
would
save
make you more qualified.
Yeah, the Cowboys can save more money by restructuring Ezekiel Elliott, Lyle Collins, and Amari Cooper's contract than they save with just flat out cutting Cooper and DeMarcus Lawrence. So you got to figure out the contracts, and restructuring is the way to go, because if I wake up one morning and I see Amari Cooper's been released by the Cowboys, I am going to be incredibly upset. So number one priority, start the restructures now. And it's really not that big of a deal because the media contract kicks in 2023. The salary cap is going to absolutely explode. The Cowboys will be fine if you just push it down the line. This was a 12-5 team. Win now and do it by restructuring.
Sturch, this question is not for you for obvious reasons. Tony, are you fine restructuring the contract of Ezekiel Elliott? Because as it stands now, the Cowboys can get out of that deal effectively a year from now. But if you touch that and you restructure it, then you commit yourself to him for even longer, and we're already kind of too far committed. Again, T's and P's, Sturch. But Tony.
Yeah, it's tough for that position, right? I mean, because I think we all felt pretty good. I mean, I know I can speak for myself. I thought Ezekiel Elliott was going to come out like a gangbuster this year. And, I think he kind of did come out and show some pop again early in the season, but he got injured. End of the day, that's kind of just what that position is. So I don't know if I would restructure and try to kick this down the kick the can down the street, so to speak. But man, it's tough for that. I wouldn't touch Ezekiel Elliott's money because there's other structures that they can kind of do and play with that may be a little more advantageous. And they keep talking about Amari Cooper has outs, but Ezekiel Elliott is here for this year, and I think people should absolutely understand that to be a fact. But that is not guaranteed beyond this year, so we'll see what happens. I think Ezekiel Elliott is still a playmaker. I think he's somebody that still can be, carry the wagon of an offense, but I wouldn't try to overextend my means any further than I have to it this year.
That makes sense. Sturch, I want to kind of pivot this because I'll ask you the question. Would you touch Zeke's contract? Are you fine attaching yourself to him if you're the Cowboys through the 2023 season?
No, I wouldn't.
My gosh.
I would probably leave it. I know I'm the biggest Zeke apologist on this network, and I believe in him. I truly believe in him. I believe in his work ethic and everything like that. But if he doesn't show us something this year, they're gonna have to. This is the make or break it year for him. So I firmly believe he will. But again, this is the year to do it.
I agree with you. I mean, because it has to be, like, they can't get out of the Zeke deal. Although if they were the Rams, they would get out of it and just deal with it. I mean, which is, I hate to be that guy. Like, if they were like the Super Bowl champions, but they would do it. So I want to pivot this into something that is oddly terrifying. Not oddly, it's just straight up terrifying. Aidan, you bring up a great point. You need to restructure contracts. That's always an offseason priority. Got to create some cap space for the Cowboys, at least, to not do anything with. But among the restructures that they have not done in recent history is Amari Cooper. They have very purposefully, very specifically left that deal alone. In your mind, do you think that is going to be for a reason? Do you think that they have... I was talking to... I was on the UK Cowboys show. By the way, we have a new show on the Blocking the Boys podcast network with Paul Stewart from UK Cowboys. And I sort of came up with this idea as I was talking, which is, again, is a reference to The Office, Sturch. But Aidan, if the Cowboys, when they negotiated Amari's contract 2 years ago, knew in 2022 that this was going to exist, this escape clause, it seems like they knew then that they were going to move on from him. I would almost, if that was the plan 2 years ago, I would almost say just do it. Like, I'm a big fan of making decisions when you're not emotionally compromised. If we are to believe that they made the decision in 2020 to cut Amari Cooper now, would you want them to do it, or would you want them to be emotionally compromised by what happened this past season?
I mean, me personally, I don't think getting rid of Amari Cooper is the right... That's a tough question because if they knew that they were just going to cut him 2 years down the line, then why would they sign the massive contract in the first place? I don't really understand that whole thing where you're just like, even if they cut him, they're going to have some dead cap. And I think it's around something like 9 million. I'm not 100% sure, but they're going to carry some dead cap. So if you knew that this was going to be a guy that you weren't 100% bought in on, why would you sign him to a $20 million a year deal? I mean, if
that's a good question.
But I mean, at that point, then what do you do? Because I don't think we saw what happened when the Cowboys didn't have Amari Cooper this season and they were relying on Michael Gallup and even CeeDee Lamb. I don't think those two guys can carry it. So then you're looking at, do you fill in during the draft? Is pick 22 suddenly a receiver, which you just spent a first round pick on a receiver? Yeah. It just puts you in such a weird position where then you have to try and fill in these pieces of trying to replace Amari Cooper when just keep him and you don't have to deal with the purgatory of trying to fill in a very reliable receiving option.
Tony, so then is it an offseason priority to not release Amari Cooper?
I mean, I think the Cowboys have played it well in this situation. I think that we haven't given them much praise this offseason, but I think in the sense where they leave that option open, if Amari Cooper's production fell off or for whatever reason it just wasn't a good fit, they've still left that little thing untouched there where they can let Amari Cooper go and it'd be financially advantageous. But the easy answer for me is to keep Amari Cooper. I mean, if he's willing to restructure and he wants to be here and you can get some cap relief and still keep him on the team, the Cowboys are better for it. I don't want to see the days of the Deontay Thompsons and the Allen Hurns and stuff. So like for me, it's find a way to keep him on the team. But I do think they handled it in a way where if it went a million different ways, the Cowboys are covered in the sense that if they get rid of him, really scot-free. But yeah, no, they're a better football team with them on it.
Sturch, do you trust them to let go of Amari?
Do I trust the Cowboys to let go of him?
Yeah, like if they were to do it, would you be able to sit here, and think to yourself, you know what? There's a reason. I trust in that. Or are you sitting here like, these idiots? Like what's on that scale where you
Yeah, no, with Gallup being on not under contract, Cedric Wilson not under contract. Now you're talking about getting rid of Amari Cooper. Now you're just left with CeeDee Lamb, and I guess CeeDee Lamb's supposed to do everything. But no, I would. If the Cowboys come out, I woke up one morning and says, Cowboys release Amari Cooper, freeing up X amount of dollars. I'd be like, you guys are idiots. Like there's no rhyme or reason to get rid of your number one receiver if you're not getting anything back for it. Like trading Amari Cooper for some kind of capital, that's another story, but I don't think anybody's taking that contract on anyway.
Okay. Glad to see we're all in relative agreement. My only point is, again, if they decided 2 years ago to do it, follow that plan. Like you created a plan. Granted, some things have changed, and you should adapt and change with things. But, I mean, I understand the plan if the plan has been put in place. Tony, what is your number one off-season priority for the Dallas Cowboys? Make it good.
For me, it's got to start up front. I think the offensive line, I think if it's through the draft, if I think it's through free agency, whatever the case may be, I think they need to have a real conversation with themselves. The Cowboys are better when Tyron Smith is on the field. But, when he's not on the field, then there's real question marks there, right? I think they like what they have in Terrence Steele. I think that Terrence Steele in the fold is a good thing. I don't think that he is a guy right now that should be taking La'el Collins' spot or Tyron Smith's spot as long as he's healthy. But there's real question marks in the interior. I think we all know Connor Williams probably won't be here next year. I think Connor McGovern left more to be desired at the left guard spot. So now we're looking at, the first pick, 24, is guard's a real possibility. And, I think that they might have to double dip early, maybe in the top, this is a hot take, but maybe they get 2 offensive linemen in the top 100. And then in that sense, now you're really building up front because as we've seen, Dak with a clean pocket can dissect any defense. Ezekiel Elliott with some, a road grading offensive line, somebody that can move the line of scrimmage. The running backs can get busy. So as far as I'm concerned, this offense goes as this offensive line goes. I know there's a ton of talent, but I think everybody knows everything starts up front.
Sturch, is Tyron Smith an ailment to the team? Because we all agree with what Tony said. When Tyron's there, he's healthy. But, can you count on him? It sounds stupid to say, but, in some way, are you better to move on for the sake of clarity, for the sake of knowing, okay, you know what, we don't have Tyron, but at least we know that. Like, we don't have to live in this, like, will they, won't they sort of place.
I think Tyron Smith reminds me a lot of like what Sean Lee turned out to be for the Dallas Cowboys.
Damn,
when Sean Lee was
depressing.
on the field. What?
That's depressing. So
Yeah, well, I'm saying when Sean Lee was on the field,
right.
he was dominant and he was a leader, as a general, right? And that's why Scooter Magruder's videos, every video started was, is Sean Lee playing? Like, that was a big thing, right? And now that's how you kind of have to look at Tyron Smith. Is Tyron Smith going to go? There was too many weeks where Stephen Jones said absolutely, and then Jerry was like definitely. Then McCarthy was like, I don't think so. So there was 3 different opinions, and yeah, I guess it's time to really address the offensive line, as Tony alluded to. But I think in particular, yeah, big tree fall hard, man. He's a big dude. When he's healthy, he can still push the best around, but the problem is he's just not healthy enough, and that stinks because Tyron Smith, I felt like, was in his best shape of his career within the last couple of years.
Aidan, we'll see how the first round shakes out. It's obviously, Cowboys, it's not as much fun when you're not in the top 10. And it's not as chalk. It's not as predictable. You have to wait a long time and see, who takes who, whatever. But is this team an offensive lineman away? Whoever, pick your guy, Kenyon Green. Are they a Kenyon Green away from seriously competing? Like, if they slide in Kenyon Green at left guard, by the way, replacing a Longhorn with an Aggie, I mean, is like, boom, they beat the Niners all of a sudden? Like, if we're to assume that they handle free agency the way they always have, where they're generally stagnant, and so their roster worsens throughout free agency, and even if they improve at left guard, that doesn't feel like, if you're Mike McCarthy and this season is everything for you, that doesn't feel like the right devotion of resources.
I'm actually okay to say it's define one offensive lineman away. One offensive lineman away from a Super Bowl? No. One offensive lineman away from beating the Niners? I can get behind that because, through the back half of the year, I'd qualify it with the fact that they're one offensive lineman away if they just commit to an offensive line. I think a large part of their struggles was the constant reshuffling. Is it Steele? Is it Collins? Is it McGovern? Is it Williams? Just, if you can just slide in, like, say, just for the sake of this argument, say it's Kenyon Green.
Chris Collinsworth, slide him
in. Say it's Kenyon Green at guard. Then, if you just devote, whether it be Collins or Steele, just say you're going to be playing right tackle for the entire season. Biadasz was obviously, he stayed consistent at center through the entire season. Zach Martin's obviously going to be there. We're going to assume that another year of Tyron Smith hopefully is a healthier season. That's consistency up front. And if Kenyon Green is all that we believe he is, you're getting back. You're slowly rebuilding that line to not necessarily what it once was, but there's an argument to be made that you're back to a top 5 line in the NFL, which, won them, 13, 12 games in 2014?
Overall, this was the better priority. Good job, Tony. You take the early lead. Sorry, Aidan. But clearly an important thing for the Cowboys. Sturch, let's beat it. What's your number one offseason priority for the Cowboys?
I don't think it's as popular as everybody else's. The obvious is offensive line. The obvious is, what Aidan
like
said.
This. Drag your competition.
I'm not dragging anybody. I just think that, my selection is more on a personal front. I tend to like certain players more than I like others. And I think a high priority is something that we've been trying to address for years and years and years. And that's the safety position. And I think they need to re-sign Kearse. I think that's a priority right now. I think that's, that he alluded to it a little bit today on Twitter with words towards, I forget, Tony had shared it within our thing, but I think that he solidifies the safety position. I think he's a banger. I think he hits hard. I think he covers the tight end well, and it's something that we haven't had consistently in a long time. So I think, and he seems to be a Dan Quinn guy, right? He found his niche. He found his home. But yeah, so I think that's the go-to.
So, Tony, Jayron was on 105.3 The Fan on Tuesday morning, and I know you have the quote in front of you. What exactly did he say about Dan Quinn?
Cowboy safety Jayron Kearse said, quote, "Getting Dan Quinn back was a huge win, and it was much needed just to try your best to keep this group together because the strides we made in year one and can give us a lot of upside going into year two with guys being together," end quote.
So like, I'm like actually asking, like, do we really like? Are we reading into that? Is him saying like he's back? Like, is that Does anybody feel more confident that he's back because of this quote specifically?
I think there was a conversation had already that maybe that he knows that I'm on my way back for year 2 under Dan Quinn, and he wouldn't have said something like that had he not had his future been in question. I think you know what I mean. Like I think that solidifies him that he's one of the priorities for the Dallas Cowboys. Like I just said.
I see a lot more we in that comment than a me type of stance. So that's what kind of made me be like, okay, it sounds like this man plans to be here.
So I don't want to be rain on the parade guy. All right, that's never my jam. Never my moment. Never my thing. I like Jayron Kearse. Love him, actually. I would love to see him continue to have success. Aidan, am I wrong in saying he played it well above expectation? Like, I'm not even talking from like a measurable standpoint, which I'm sure you could do. Maybe that's another project we work on. But like, it feels like we got like an exemplary season for Jayron Kearse, just like in a vacuum. Is that fair to say, Aidan?
Yeah, I say borderline. People were calling for a Pro Bowl for him, so yeah, a pretty good season.
Right. So, in all likelihood, Aidan, does that repeat itself? Or is there some regression to the mean? There's regression to the mean for everything, but is there a regression to the mean for Jayron Kearse next year? Maybe he's tapping into, he's scratching the surface on who he's going to be. Like, there's a number of ways this could go, but what's the most likely outcome in your mind?
I think something similar to what we saw in 2022. 2021. There might be slight regression, but to me, there wasn't any play where I was like, "Oh, he got lucky to make that play." I mean, he finished the season with 2 interceptions. It wasn't like it's not like he was Trayvon Diggs where we're like, oh, he's for sure going to regress. The interceptions are going to come down and he's going to get overpaid because like he was just making plays. And whether it be in the run, whether like Tony said, he did a great job covering the tight end. I just don't know how much of that isn't repeatable. Like it's able to be repeated.
So I guess where I'm coming from is, and maybe I'm just jaded. Maybe I'm just, upset, like I'm wounded. The Cowboys have hurt me. So you tell me if I'm wrong, Sturch. If I have to pick one side of the extreme that Jayron is closer to, in all likelihood, if I had to bet, and guess, and I would hope to be wrong, I think he's much closer to the seasons we saw Jason Hatcher or Jeremy Mincy have for the Cowboys when they or Greg Selvey, excuse me, not Jeremy Mincy, George Selvey, not Greg Selvey. Goodness gracious, when he led the team in sacks. I mean, it feels like that kind of like one-off as opposed to the Cowboys just found a diamond in the rough. I mean, I know I'm generalizing, but that's just like I don't feel the same passion about this idea. I guess is where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm not with you on that one. I think that this guy's got a lot of untapped potential. I think that Dan Quinn pulled it out of him. I think we're seeing the best is yet to come for a kid like this. That's what I think. I think, and it took me a couple weeks to just be, not be Mr. Down on everybody, Dallas Cowboy guy, but I'm starting to come around to some of the guys that I know that will more than likely be back, and he's one of those guys that I come around to, and I think that there's a bright future. I think he's excelled under the right system. He's got the right circumstance, and because Dan Quinn came back, now he doesn't have to worry about learning a new system or anything like that. I think this is all bodes well for him.
So if you have to pick, Sturch, you can only bring back one of Kearse or Randy Gregory.
Oof. Kearse.
What?
Yeah.
Aidan, you agree?
If you factor in contracts, yeah, obviously
well, that's
if you're
fair.
saying
I mean,
no, okay, so if you
can I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying that's fair. Like what you're gonna have to pay Randy is exorbitant. So I agree with you in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, okay. if you're both paying them the same amount, sure, I'd bring back Gregory, but even that's close.
Tony, you looked upset that your paisan said yes over Gregory.
I mean, to me, like
I don't even know what that word means. If I'm being honest with you guys, like I just say it so you'll think I'm cool.
Listen, you said it right. Yeah,
it's from the old country. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it over there.
But yeah, as far as like, I mean, for me, I think the value in Randy Gregory in the defensive end is higher than obviously Jayron Kearse and like a safety, especially this team values those two positions. But I think the apples and oranges. Like Randy Gregory is financially going to make so much more money. I think Jayron Kearse on what he's going to command on the open market makes it almost like a no-brainer to bring him back if he wants to come back. Because like you said, there's a real possibility that RJ's right, and there's a possibility that Sturch is right. And one of you is going to be right. Either Dan Quinn unlocked this kid's career or it's a one-off. And if you're going to get him for $2-3 million a year, take the chance because he loves it here and the team loved him. So I don't see why it would be a bad situation.
And in that sense, I'm with you. Like if we can keep riding this ride, I don't want to get off. You know what I mean? But if I've got to if this is one of those you go to see all 9 Star Wars movies at the theater and you got to pay $100, I'm not down for that. That's not what I'm talking about here. Okay. Wow. So is there a free agent to be that you would prioritize over Kearse, Sturch?
Maybe Michael Gallup. But no, I think Kearse is the guy. I think he's the one that I'm bringing back and I'm putting at the top of my because after I went up and down the free agency list of guys that could potentially replace the guys we might lose. And I think there's more comparables out there. Kearse, I think, is built different. I don't know. I got this feeling about him.
Wow. Okay. Sturch inspired the most debate. He is the new crown wearer for our roundtable tonight. Sturch, you're in the lead. Congratulations to you. Aidan, priority number 2 for you for the Dallas Cowboys this offseason.
Oh, we're going second round.
Oh, we were supposed to come up with more than one. All right.
I mean, I thought y'all had a lot. This was actually y'all's idea.
Because I figured, you know what? You know what's funny? I got 4 because I knew in my head when I was writing my first one down, I said, RJ's going to do the whole nobody could pick the thing. And then RJ's going to also come back and say
the fair and independent thing.
Yeah, but no, he's also going to come back and say Sturch your last. So that's why I started writing down a plethora of them. So.
Okay, then let Sturch go first. Let's snake draft this so that
look at that, Sturch called out by the kid.
Well, I just don't have any right now.
That's not good.
Wow. Let's swing it around. Let's go back. Sturch, your priority number 2 for the Cowboys. So you're betting against yourself here because you're in the lead.
Well, the 3 that I wrote down are done. You know what?
You had 4. There's so there should be 1 left.
No, I had 3. I have 3 written down here.
You just said you had 4.
Well, I thought I had 4, and then I'm right looking at it, and it looks like it's 3. Honestly,
don't drive home after this.
So yeah, right. After I should just sleep here. I'm here long enough anyway. After what I do is re-sign Kearse, and then if we addressed everything that these guys have said already, as far as addressing the offensive line and restructuring contracts, I'm all for that. Then I would say keep the offense in, consistent, and I would re-sign Dalton Schultz. I would make sure I bring him back as a priority. However, there is plenty of tight ends out there like Schultz who will probably take a smaller price tag, and we're already paying Jayron. But again, we're on priority 4 right now, and I think Schultz at least fits that bill for me.
Anybody feel passionate about this? Anybody want to cape for Schultz or argue otherwise? I mean, the floor is yours, Tony, Aidan. Yeah.
I like Schultz. I mean, I'm a big fan of Schultz game, and I think
now he's about to drag you, Sturch.
No, not at all. No, not at all. Because I agree. I think Dalton Schultz would be great on this team. I think he just shout out to him, his play. He might have priced himself out of Dallas, which is fine. Like in Jayron Kearse's situation, he may want to come here for the money because he knows what it did for his career. What Dalton Schultz did for his career is going to allow him to be able to leave here. And so at the end of the day, I would like to have Dalton Schultz. I like the idea of having him and Blake Jarwin here, and obviously Dak is comfortable with him. I just don't think it's realistic really at this time based on, who knows? Because the tight ends in this draft are good, and there's a lot of quality ones, so maybe that drives down the price. But, we'll see what happens.
Aidan?
Yeah, this is what I was getting. I have been banging the drum on keeping Schultz for so long. Like, I think he is so valuable to this team, and I don't think a lot of people realize how good just a solid tight end is. I will say, the more I see, I just think Schultz is gonna. I think he's gonna demand probably the second most money outside of Mike Gesicki out of all the tight ends, and I think that there's gonna be some team like we saw it with the Patriots last year, some team that's gonna just be willing to spend way too much money for him, and good for Schultz. But just like given that we have Jarwin on the roster, and I don't know how much they're gonna do with that contract. I don't know how much room they have to do with that contract. I think there's a very small chance he comes back, but I'd love to see him back if it's possible.
He's going to the Jets, by the way. He's going to the Jets.
Yeah, Jets.
Pro
is the
Football
perfect
Focus predicted their top 50 free agents, predicted landing spots for them. They had Dalton Schultz going to the Jaguars. They had Randy Gregory going to the Indianapolis Colts, Michael Gallup to the Detroit Lions, and Connor Williams to the Arizona Cardinals, in case you're curious. Yeah.
Poor Gallup. Torn ACL in Detroit. Jesus Christ.
You know, it's getting paid. They did have the Cowboys signing a safety. It was not Jayron Kearse. It was Marcus May, incidentally, of the New York Jets.
Okay.
Now it's getting juicy. You can't do that. You can't throw those names out there like that. I love Kearse, but my goodness.
They did have him. They did have the Cowboys signing him on a 1-year deal. So that's kind of your classic Cowboys, like, see what happens. And for what it's worth, Nick Corte, who does a great job projecting compensatory picks, did a comp pick kind of computation based on this exact specific projection that Pro Football Focus did, and based off the contracts that Pro Football Focus came up with, which they did. Again, it was a really lengthy exercise, and they have the Cowboys picking up 4th-round compensatory picks in 2023 for Schultz, Gallup, and Gregory. So 3 potential 4th-round picks if things sort of come to fruition, which would obviously involve the Cowboys not being all too involved in free agency themselves, which you can certainly bank on. Okay, that started off slow but built up momentum. Sturch is 2 for 2. I almost called you Schultz. All right, let's see. Tony, I don't really see a point. Sturch has a commanding lead, but what is your second offseason priority for the Cowboys?
Off-season priority. It's not a free agent signing. It's not about retention. It's about finding Kellen Moore's swagger from the first half of the season. I don't know what it's going to take. I don't know what he's got to do as far as the getting back to the drawing board. I really don't believe the league has figured him out. But at the end of the day, he's going to have to, find that magic. I mean, this offense look night and day different at the back end of the season, and that's going to be arguably just as important as anything else. I mean, Kellen Moore is back. He coached himself in the second half of the season out of a head coaching opportunity. As tough as that is, as of a pill to swallow. Now, what do you do with this? What is your motivation moving forward? Him and Dak are going to have to get back in the drawing board, and we saw Dak Prescott talk about the sense that he would love to be involved in some type of decision making, and if and that might start with right up front with Kellen Moore. It's like, okay, what are we doing here? Let's get back to 101. We have an entire offseason. We know what we have coming back. And at the end of the day, you have to have Kellen Moore find his groove, like you wrote on the screen here. So you got to get that back.
So I know this is a priority, but Aidan, in the world of likelihood, 1 to 10, how likely do you think this is achieved? I know Tony's not necessarily saying it's super likely, but if you had to quantify it.
I mean, I just think it depends how you define groove. Like, I don't think, and I kind of wrote about this at Blogging the Boys, I don't think we're ever going to see weeks 1 through 6 Dallas, but if groove is defined as like, I don't know, like somewhere like 80% of that, I put it at a 6 or a 7.
You mentioned that you wrote about that it's unlikely that we'll ever see who they were from weeks 1 through 6 last year. So like, if we've seen their ceiling, I mean, isn't that
we've also seen their floor, and their floor was the back half of the season. I think. Right. So you
wrote about how it was like.
Yeah, it's just gonna fall somewhere right in the middle. Like I think.
Is that enough?
I mean, I don't think I don't think it was as bad as we made it out to be, just because we saw weeks 1 through 6 and we're like, holy cow, this is like one of the best offenses we've ever seen. Nobody can stop us. And then they plummeted, but that plummet was still, I mean, it was inconsistent, but it was still like, we didn't turn into the Jaguars or the Jets. So I think 90% of weeks 1 through 6, somewhere in the middle, that would be okay.
We went 12-5. They went 12-5 after all. So it's not like it's a total lost season.
But they won 6, like half their wins were against the crummy.
I don't care. Win is a win in the NFL. Let's go.
But the problem
go ahead.
This offense is not going to look the same if there's no Dalton Schultz, there's no Michael Gallup, there's no Amari Cooper. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have a starting left guard right now, and obviously the draft's going to come and go. But at the same time, the creative, boy wonder that Kellen Moore was at the beginning of the season, which was obviously, over the top, just like his demise is over the top as well. But when you watch the film and you look at the end of the season, there were just inexcusable play calls that you're like, okay, I understand that Dak Prescott has to play better, and I understand he has to make better reads, but at the same time, why are you calling like these beater coverages against like these vanilla type defenses? Like they're trying to run cover 2 beaters against, a cover 3 defense, and the 49ers are jumping on it, and you're getting lucky to fit passes into holes. It was just like really confusing play calls, and you're like, wait a minute, is somebody else calling the plays right now? Because Kellen Moore was supposed to be like a wizard at the beginning of the year, and now these calls are like obviously check out, check down, get out of these play calls in the biggest game of the season.
Yeah, on the subject of wizard, he went reverse order. He went from like Gandalf the White to Gandalf the Gray, Sturch. Like the negative regression. So I mean, let's be real. You're kind of the most down on Kellen. Do you feel like it's not coming back? Like we could send Kellen to some lodge in New Mexico, like some sort of fortress of solitude for him to like have a moment of introspection and try to re-find himself and recenter himself, and it still won't be enough?
I don't know. Aidan ruined it all by saying how offensive coordinators coming back in year 4 are awful. So I don't know how excited to get. Look, this guy came back because nobody else wanted him. This isn't I want to be a Cowboy for life deal. This is nobody else wanted me, so guess what? By default, I got myself a contract over here in Dallas. I still got to play out. I don't trust Kellen Moore right now. I don't think he knows how to use the tools that are in his toolbox right now, as I've been saying. A lot of these play calls, if I see another bubble screen, I might just lose my mind. He's got talent on the offense, and the guys that are going to be back, meaning your CeeDee Lamb, meaning your Dak Prescott, meaning your running game of Pollard and Zeke. Those guys will be back. You know what they're capable of doing, and you know where they excel the most. Put them in a position to excel the most then. It's not rocket science. If we can do it playing Madden, they can do it on the NFL field. Trust me.
All that's well said. Aidan, they ruined your point. You know what? I've never really do it this way. So far, Sturch is in first place. Tony's in second place. So you got a lot of ground to make up here, Aidan. No big deal. So with that being said, Aidan, your offseason priority number 2 for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to vault me into number 1. My second priority is I'd love for us to add a slot receiver this year, whether.
Oh, no, you're up to 2 already.
Really? I mean, here's what I was thinking the other day. I was like, who would fit in perfectly if we lose Michael Gallup? Somebody like Cole Beasley. Somebody like Cole Beasley 4 years ago. Like if
how about CeeDee Lamb in the slot?
Thank you. You have the tool. Use them.
No, and I think that's completely part of it. But what I'd like to see, I'd like us to be able to use CD on the outside while still. I want to give Dak just that, and maybe I don't think Amari Cooper is the consistent hey, here's a check dump down receiver, and if you get in trouble, just throw it to him. He's gonna catch it. He's gonna make some yards after the catch. I think Jamison Crowder's hitting the free agent market. I would not be mad at all if they signed him. And I think part of this is I liked what I saw from Malik Turner just from a pure speed ability to make a move. He's not gonna be the best receiver in the NFL, but he's gonna make a guy miss, and he's gonna convert on a first down. I just think having that receiver, and you have the flexibility with CeeDee Lamb, bring him into the slot sometimes, but if you just need a consistent guy, I'd love for us to get a guy like that again.
I think I agree with you. Like you have to have some slot dominance. Like you have it already in CeeDee Lamb, but if you're insistent on him playing on the outside, get it somewhere else. I mean, that's really, I guess, the point. So I agree with that. So Tony, sorry, you've been bumped down to number 2. Does anybody have to number 3? Sorry. Does anybody have any points of disagreement? Heavy agreement with Aidan? Anybody at all? Sturch, going once.
You can also move Tony Pollard into the slot too.
I'm not opposed to that. I mean, like you should use him somehow, some way. Tony Pollard's entering a contract year. Like that happens fast. It's so depressing.
That is actually really depressing. Jesus. But yeah, no, I'm saying like we saw it maybe like twice in the preseason, and then there was like articles written about it, like Tony Pollard in the slot. Here we go. And I'm just like, oh, okay, cool. And then you never saw it ever. So it's like, why do it? Was he just a dummy? Just to kind of like, not him as a dumb person, but like, just to mimic somebody else in a training situation, maybe. But like, he's got hands. He knows how to run a route. So why not? It's already on the team.
Okay.
You don't have to spend any money.
All strong points.
I just want to add, like Cedric Wilson, the way that they used Cedric Wilson in the slot in the second half of the Cardinals game to me was like, this is what we need from a slot receiver. Just somebody who they're just going to use as a gadget play while everybody else on the defense is going to focus on Cooper and Lamb. Find somebody who can take that focus away or just get open. I'd love it if we could add a slot receiver.
Okay. All right. Does anybody want to add another offseason priority? Now's the time. I mean, it's a close contest. Tony, you're in last place, so I would suggest it, just being honest, but, it's up to you.
Go ahead, Tony. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just
Paisan. One of you.
It's like a bad Zoom call, meaning for like work and stuff. Like, I would say get Dak Prescott healthy. That's my next priority. Get Dak Prescott healthy. Don't have him do anything crazy over the offseason. I know we say that, kind of like, oh, duh, like that should be the main priority, get healthy. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like this is a full year. Remember, we went into, this past year with like just talking about every injury and every ailment, every, bad thought that Dak Prescott had in his head. And that's not a knock on him. I'm just saying he went through a lot, right? So this is a complete year removed from everything else. The noise is over. I think they have to go into the season with a little bit of a chip, knowing that they are better than what they showed in San Francisco, and it starts up top. So the only way we're going to get Dak Prescott back to playing Dak Prescott ball, which it depresses me. For whatever reason, I put myself through hell over the offseason. I usually watch a lot of documentaries. So I watched a Tony Romo's A Football Life the other day because I'm a big Romo guy. And like you just see the emergence of Dak Prescott and what he was able to do in his rookie year with all the RPOs and all this other stuff. And he's just a runner, and he can throw the ball and drop it in the bucket. We need that guy back. I know it's only 6 years removed, and I think that does feel like a lifetime, but the abilities are there. If he just gets healthy and gets his mind right, this kid could be dangerous again.
I like to play a game. Sometimes it's a depressing game. You mentioned only 6 years removed. So the same amount of time separates us right now from Dak Prescott's rookie year as Dak Prescott's rookie year separated us from Des Bryant's rookie year. Like, think about that.
Crazy.
That is things move. Life moves pretty fast.
It's wild. Tony, you had one before Sturch stole your thunder.
Sorry.
Yeah, I might get dragged a little bit for this, and maybe it's a conversation for another day. But at the same time, everybody keeps talking about, draft like a linebacker so you can move Micah Parsons down to play D end and rush the passer, which I love him rushing the passer, but I don't want to box him in. I don't want him to be a specific pass rusher. I like the idea that he's able to scheme based on matchup. What he did to that poor kid Storm Norton on the Chargers was just like a beautiful opportunity. I know it was his like coming out party as a pass rusher, but if you can find him in advantageous situations to pass rush, like I'm all in for that. And it doesn't create an absolute need at the linebacker spot. I just think he's a chess piece that you can use week to week. Dan Quinn knows a lot better on how he's going to use him than me, but all these people saying draft a linebacker so he can come down to be a DN. We don't need Randy Gregory. Like I don't want to rely solely on him to be a one position thing. This guy can do so many different things. Let's cut that talk out. That's just my opinion on that.
The Randy Gregory part of that is a different discussion, but I would love to devote Micah to rushing the passer. I mean, it's a more valuable position. It's a more influential position. He's very good at it. So I'm fine with that. I mean, I don't want to, you mentioned like let him be the queen on the board. I don't want him to get Byron Jones'd. I don't want like playing linebacker 1 week, playing pass rusher another, one series, another series, one play, another play. Like, I mean, again, going back to relative to expectation, Micah is the unicorn, but at a certain point that, hybridness will wear off. And so I do want to devote him to one craft as early as possible. And because like, then we could end up in a really awkward place with him, like Jimmy Graham in New Orleans when it comes time for his new contract. Like I'm a pass rusher, I'm a linebacker. Well, you played linebacker, like whatever. No, like let's call it what it is. Let's decide and let's live in that. So negative points for you, Tony. Do you agree, Sturch?
Yeah, I agree. You got to put him somewhere. You got to actually get this kid focused, get this kid right. We understand the ability is there. You know, it's very similar to DeMarcus Ware. There was times where he was putting his fingers in the dirt, and there was times where he was dropping into the coverage. And, you know, like, so we're all aware of what he's capable of doing, but this is also going to prevent you from going out and grabbing, you know, key components to the team. Because if you sit there and say, well, we need an edge rusher, but we got Micah. And then you're like, well, we need a linebacker, but we got Micah. You know, he can't do it all. And I believe in the kid. Don't get me wrong. I am all on the Micah hype train. I made a damn t-shirt for him. You know what I mean? So I am on the hype train for this kid. And I think that he's, you know, it's better if he's just solidified somewhere within this Dan Quinn system. That's how I feel.
Aidan, I realize this is a lame analogy, but it would sort of be like, again, this is a ridiculous. I'm not saying this was Tony's point exactly, but sort of like the Baltimore Ravens after 2019 saying, you know, we don't need to devote any resources to our offensive line. Like Lamar will just run. Lamar will just buy us time. Like, you know, we've got that special like X factorness. And the moment that's gone, like everything about who you are changes. Again, that's not a perfect analogy. I kind of regret saying it, honestly.
I think the better analogy would be like not picking up a running back, because you're like, we can just let Lamar
let's
run.
pretend I said that. Go ahead.
I actually agree with Tony. Because here's my thing.
You control the points, RJ. Remember that.
5 gajillion points to Sturge.
It's not like you can't. Now okay. I kind of agree with Tony. I'm gonna say we still need a linebacker, because you can't just walk in and
14 points to Aidan.
But I'm completely fine letting Micah just keep being that queen. Look at what he did in the San Francisco game. I guarantee you, if Micah wasn't helping with stopping the run in the San Francisco game, I mean, Dak probably doesn't touch the ball past the 6-minute mark in the fourth quarter, and he touched it twice because Micah was all over the field making run stops. And if he's on one side of the D line, then let's hope they run it that way, or else you're out of luck.
I will say, and I know this might not have been your point, Tony, I'm okay with this. I can be okay with it as long as you don't let it impede your roster building, to Sturch's point. Because what happens is when you start to rely on Micah will just do it all. What if Micah's hurt? What if Micah misses a game? Now you're down at 2 positions. And so, like, if you're just going to understand, I don't know if anybody actually plays chess. I do, not trying to brag. But there's a game called Bug House that you can play with a friend. And so the way it works is like if Aidan and I are partners against you, Sturch, and Tony, I'm black and Aidan's white. Every piece I capture, Aidan can plant on the board. Every white piece I capture, he can plant. And so it would be like giving him another queen. That's what I want Micah to be. You can have 2 queens on the board, but just do not say, well, we only have 1 queen, so we're not going to budget for anything else. That's my only concern, Tony.
So for me, I'm glad, you guys kind of you made my point for me in what I was trying to say.
Better. We did it better. Yeah.
I don't want Micah Parsons to be pigeonholed in one position, because I don't want them to be like, okay, we can let Randy Gregory go because Micah Parsons is going to be the D end. And I don't want them to be like, oh, he's a linebacker, so we can't run with the card in our hand when Nakobe Dean is there. I think it's the opposite. I really think if he's able to have position flex, you still have a bona fide stud that can allow you to draft best player available. If the best player available at 24 is a D end and you have Randy Gregory, I'd still take one. If it's Nakobe Dean, I'm still taking Nakobe Dean, because now you're pairing Micah and Nakobe Dean. And if you have Randy Gregory there, you can pair him with the other D end. You don't have to rely on Micah Parsons rushing the passer, but you can use that opportunity. Now you get a little creative. I was thinking about it in the complete opposite sense of he's not hindering you from picking up people. He's allowing you to pick whoever you want, because he has opportunities to be multiple on this defense.
Okay, 3 points to Tony. You landed that plane. I mean,
field goal.
So, okay, good for you guys. Anybody have any others? Any more before we kind of tie a bow on this?
I was actually going to add a kicker, ironically enough, saying field goal.
I mean, I don't know that that's a priority as much as that's like mandatory. I think like it's pretty
what
well
do you define as a priority?
That's true. But if they trot out Greg Zuerlein, man,
no.
You know what? They're definitely going to take him. They're definitely going to take him to camp. Like they're definitely going to take him and call it a competition.
Guy, it's his buddy. You know it.
No.
Like that's because of that. in itself. Like he's good buddies with Fossil, but at least bring somebody in. And then I know what's going to happen. There's going to be 10 kicks, right? Our replacement guy is going to go 9 of 10. Zerline's going to go 4 of 10. But because he made 2 60-yarders, they're going to be like, you know what, Zerline, come on back, brother. You're the guy. You're the guy. When we have that situation come up again, you are the man. Forget it.
Aidan?
I was just going to say, it's not going to happen. I'd say 99% not going to happen. But I did see that young Waku is played with Dan Quinn. Maybe he wants to join Dan Quinn again. And I'm pretty sure he's a free agent. I don't think it's going to happen. Atlanta will probably pay him, but
what about you guys thoughts on who's the defensive end they just cut? Falcons. Fowler?
Dante Fowler?
Dante Fowler, yeah.
I mean,
another guy. Randy Gregory walks out the door.
Yeah, am I keeping Randy Gregory like at all is contingent on that. But
yeah, okay.
I mean, I also like
another Dan Quinn guy in case.
But at a certain point, like I thought it was so stupid when the Commanders signed Curtis Samuel last year, and everybody's like, "Holy crap! Watch out, Ron Rivera!" It's like if you just bring in the old team, it doesn't work, you know. And so that's what everybody did with the Curtis Samuel hype.
Last time I checked, Carolina didn't do much either.
Yeah, you can't just bring in all of Dan Quinn's dudes from Atlanta. And did Keanu Neal work out? Did DeMonte Kazee work out? You know, and I'm not like they were fine. You know, they weren't like terrible. But
I'm talking about them in the past tense. They're not coming back.
I mean, were they fine in 2021? Were they really good? Did they stand out? No. We made a big old deal about Keanu Neal. He's coming down. He's playing linebacker. Watch out. Dan Quinn knows how to use him. I
think that experiment kind of sucked. But I like KZ. I didn't hate that.
You just like all the safeties, Sturch. Just like all the safeties.
I'm a safety guy. My dad played safety.
Negative 500 points for all of you for not asking me. Wow, seriously.
RJ, I got a question for you real quick.
Thank you.
What do you think a priority for the Dallas Cowboys is, RJ?
I'm so glad you asked, Sturch. Your 500 points are restored. Just shut up. And we've all said this to some degree. Last week was the first real week of the season, and just talking about the football of it all, like the Mike McCarthy thing. And I get like McCarthy's like, you know, standing up for himself, and so like I'm not going to really knock him for that, but I don't want to hear a word. Mike McCarthy's going to speak next week at the Combine. I don't want to hear anything about dysfunction. I don't want to hear anything about predictions. I don't want to hear Jerry talking about we have a really talented team. Just be quiet. You have not earned the right to do anything right now.
RJ,
just shut up
RJ,
and go to work.
That's not the Cowboy way, RJ. You know this for a fact. Aidan said this on our podcast. He's like, stay out of the headlines. And 2 days later, my God, the world came crashing down on the Cowboys.
But, I mean, that's the problem. I mean, that's like you mentioned it's the Cowboy way. That's why it's a priority. Like, you know what? Let Errol Spence or whoever have their fights in your stadium. You know, let everything normal happen that has nothing to do with football, and just stay out of the way. Just stay out of the way. That's all I ask. Just be quiet, stay out of the way, be super duper boring. Pick up a hobby, you know, like watch The Sopranos. You know, there's a million board games out there. You know, play online poker. Like there's a lot of things you can do without ruining your football team. Do one of those.
I'm with it.
What's your hobby, Tony? What do you do in your free time that isn't football related?
Video games and watch football. Honestly, I'm a glutton for punishment. I really be watching NFL Network like 24.
I was kind of half expecting you to be like landscaping or gardening. I know you get the house. I mean, you know.
Nah, that's.
But you know what, Tony? Maybe spruce up the joint. You know, throw some bushes and some hedges out there. You know,
that's all.
Get a little dirty this offseason. That's all we're saying.
Pay good people for that.
Look at that. Okay. Anybody have any final thoughts before we crown a winner?
I'm good.
Wow. Nobody has any thoughts.
I mean, look, the Cowboys have had themselves quite the last 2 weeks. We don't have to get into details. Everybody here knows exactly what's gone down with this team. And I think it's time, just like RJ said, to just get out of the news. Get out of there.
Winner for tonight's roundtable, Dave Sturchio. Second place, silver medal, Aidan Davis. Third place, Tony Soprano, a.k.a. Tony Catalina. Chop Sports coming in strong with representation, like they are in the great state of Texas, the University of Texas, second place, you know, second best. And I don't know what value the number 3 has in your life, Tony, but that's where you're at tonight. You know, anybody want to offer a speech? Any closing thoughts?
Third overall pick. of the USFL, whatever they're calling it, draft is Catalina.
Listen, I'm calling it now. My brother is going to end up on the Houston Gamblers. I'm guessing. Play it back tomorrow.
What time is
We'll
that
see.
draft at, Tony? I got to tune in. Is it on TV?
So I guess it's streamed. It's on in 5 minutes. We're recording right now at 6:55 Eastern time. It starts at 7 Eastern, so 6 Central.
They draft by position, right?
Right.
Like the first round's quarterbacks.
The whole first round will be the 8 quarterbacks. They're going to be the starting quarterbacks. So basically, it doesn't start until like round 5. They draft like the tackles, and then they'll do like 2-3 rounds of tackles. So if my brother isn't one of the 24 offensive tackles, he might be packing it up. So
let's think positive and let's all predict a team that he ends up on. Tony, you got the Gamblers. Aidan, you can go after Sturch because I think Sturch has a better grip on the team name. So just so y'all are aware, we have the Michigan Panthers, the Tampa Bay Bandits, the Philadelphia Stars, the New Jersey Generals, who were owned by somebody famous, is how I'll leave that the first time around. The Birmingham Stallions, the Pittsburgh Maulers, the New Orleans Breakers are your team. So, Sturch, where does Tony's brother get drafted?
The New Jersey Generals, of course. He's going to be a Jersey boy after all. So let's go, Catalina. Get your butt back. All right,
nobody
Jersey.
cares. Aidan.
I mean,
pick a team, Aidan.
The Pittsburgh Maulers. Let's go with it.
Not a bad name.
They have the worst uniforms. So
they do have the worst
uniforms.
How did somebody get away with naming their team the Panthers? How did
the
that
Michigan
happen?
Panthers. They might have the worst uniforms though. The Michigan Panthers might have.
But how do you like? Oh, I'm going to start a USFL franchise. Let's go with but you can't name after an NFL team. Okay, let's go with the Panthers.
I take that back. The Philadelphia Stars looks like Hardee's. Like they look like.
So
a
to be fair, I believe these are the original USFL names, all of them, Sturch. So that's where the copyrights are like sort of coming from. So it's not like a new thing.
Oh, Carolina were the ones that were being a little despicable.
Well, the USFL was defunct at that time, kind of like how Washington has stolen the Commanders. But so that answers your question. Okay, I'm tempted to go with the Stars, but I hate the stripe. So I don't want to wish that on your brother, Tony.
Philly.
Don't do that.
I'm gonna go with the man. Aidan, you picked a really ugly uniform. I'm gonna go with the Tampa Bay Bandits.
Okay.
That kind of looks like the Aidan. What was the arena team that Will McClay worked for? The Desperados. Is that what it was?
Yeah, the Dallas Desperados.
Desperados.
Yeah.
Okay.
The Bandits logo kind of looks like that, just a little bit. So
I see it.
Okay, so we're all in. We all have locked picks. I hope it's the Gamblers because I already promised to buy a shirt, and that's the team I'm going to root for. So let's make it happen.
That's it.
Are you guys not buying shirts, Sturch?
Actually, what Tony doesn't know is that I'm going to make a custom shirt for his brother. So what we'll do is we'll make some do-re me for everybody involved. All the Catalinas out there want to buy some merch. This is the way to do it, bro.
Looks like I'm buying 2 shirts.
Will they sell jerseys?
Oh yeah, they got the whole website to set up. Yeah, I'm telling you,
Aidan, don't rain on my parade, Aidan. Okay, I'm trying to make money here.
I'm buying a Chop Sports one for sure, though.
Look, I already followed the Gamblers on Twitter. Like, I don't want to have to add another team to the mix. I don't want to have
you guys are Twitter exclusive. So you guys are Twitter.
Yeah, like here's how I know I'm devoted to something. I don't want to have like score alerts for multiple USFL teams. Like, I'm willing to add 1 to the rotation, but I don't need 2 in my life. So really, this needs to be Houston. That's where I'm at.
Can I ask who thought about making the Houston Gamblers in Texas? You guys are Texas guys. The all-black uniform. These guys are going to be. I mean, you guys, the Texas Sun. I don't know, man, what they're going to do. It's going to be hot as them.
It doesn't matter.
You would have to ask.
They're all in Alabama.
Mouse Davis. The Gamblers actually have the most interesting original USFL history. I mean, the Generals are up there with Herschel Walker, but the Gamblers had Jim Kelly, and they actually let him pick
where did
when
Flutie
he
play?
was drafted by the Bills.
What?
Oh, Flutie went to Canada, yeah. But I think Steve Young was on one of the USFL teams as well. So, yeah.
Casey Hammond's onto something, by the way.
Yeah.
Tony, make sure you look at
something
that
out.
comment, bro.
Okay. Great roundtable as always. Make sure you listen to these guys on the Blogging the Boys podcast network every Monday on 1st and 10. A little birdie told me that they have a very special guest coming next week. So be on the lookout for that. Aidan is on Twitter at Aidan1214. Is that correct, Aidan? Yeah.
Correct.
That number is not his birthday, just so everybody knows. Tony has a stupid underscore at Tony_Catalina, and Sturch is at Dave Sturchio. Makes it nice and easy. The easiest Twitter handle. Good for you, Sturch. All right. Aidan, or not Aidan, sorry. It's Tony's night. Tony, the last word belongs to you. Make it a great one.
Doug Flutie actually played in the USFL for the New Jersey Generals.
Yeah, boy, let's go.
Thanks a lot, everybody. See you next time.